So 2.4 linear functions. All right, so we'll be doing essentially like writing equations of lines, graphing lines, finding slope, things like that. So, graph each linear function. We're not doing the domain and range part because that's just all real numbers. So number 14 is f of x equals 2 over 3 x plus 2. If you want to use graph paper, you can. If you don't, that's also fine. I'm going to put up grid lines on mine just for the sake of these problems while we do these first like 2 problems, and then I'm going to go back to normal looking screen. So I'm going to set up a graph. And you don't necessarily have to label everything, but I'm just going to label in one, like, so that I know what the scaling is. That's the biggest thing, is you need to let me know what your scale is that you are using when you're doing these problems, because sometimes you'll count by 2s, 5s, whatever, just depending. I mean, for these ones, you're probably always counting by 1, but just show what the scaling is. If you're using graph paper, you don't necessarily have to mark all these off, but if you aren't, then you should definitely, draw some lines on here. Something like this. So we've got a y-intercept of 2, so we plot that up here. And then I have a slope of 2 over 3. So what does that mean that I need to do?
Up to right 3.
Yep, up to right 3. The other thing I can do if I don't want to have to extend my graph way up here is I can also go down to back 3. And that's the same thing. It puts it on the same line. So, and then just connect it. You need to have, 2 or 3 points minimum. If you want to do more, that's fine, but it doesn't have to be anything excessive. What happens if I have something like number 18? F of x equals 3, and I need to graph that. What is that graph going to look like?
Straight line.
In what way? Yep. So this is essentially saying y equals 3, so we put a point at the 3, and then it's just a horizontal line going through it. If it was, there's not, well, I'll do that one in a second, actually. Disregard what I was about to say. 22. So the first graph that we did was in slope-intercept form. So they gave me a slope and an intercept, and I could graph it that way. This next one is going to be in standard form. So 2x plus 5y equals 10. And so you can either manipulate this function to get y by itself and put it in slope-intercept form, which is totally fine. Or I can use the, what is it called? Like find the intercepts, where I use the cover-up method and solve for each thing and figure out where it intersects x and y axis. So I would use that one. I think it's easier than having to plot slope and all the things. So what you do is, if I want to solve for x, I cover up y, and so I would have 2x equals 10. So x equals 5. So that means that we're crossing the x-axis at 5. So I'll put a point on there. If I want to solve for y, I cover up x, and I would have 5y equals 10. So y equals 2, and so that means it crosses the y-axis at 2. So when I set up my graph for this one, I have a point at x equals 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have one at y equals 2, so up here. And then that's my 2 points. I just connect, whoops. Close enough. Connect them. So this one would have had a negative slope on it if we had done it the other way. So you can use either method. If we were going to do it the other way, as far as solving it, I would get 5y equals negative 2x plus 10, divide by 5, so y equals negative 2/5 x plus 2, and then if I were to do that, I would get the exact same graph because this slope tells me to go down 2 and right 5, and that's exactly what ended up happening there by just plotting the intercepts. So you can use either method that you prefer. I like the cover-up method because a lot of times I don't actually even show this out. I'll just write x is 5, y is 2. Like, I'll just literally cover it up with my finger and write what it is. But for the sake of seeing it, I wrote it out. So, any questions about those graphing ones? Let's see, one more thing just so that make sure we've seen it. Number 26. If I have x equals negative 4, what does that graph look like? Where?
Vertical on negative.
Yep, a vertical line on negative 4. So just straight up and down like that. And obviously I'm kind of making my graph excessively large. You don't necessarily have to make it that big. Okay. Find the slope of the line satisfying the given conditions. So these ones we're just basically finding slope. We're not having to do anything else. I'm not writing the equation of the line or anything. 44, it's through the point 5, negative 3, and the point 1, negative 7. So slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it doesn't matter which point we call 1 and which one we call 2. We just have to be consistent and do the same one in both. So negative 7 minus a negative 3, so that's going to end up being plus, over 1 minus 5. So negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4 over negative 4, which ends up just giving me a positive 1 for my slope on that one. Um, 46, negative 2, 4, and 6, 4. So how do I set this one up?
Minus 4 over 6 plus 2.
Yep. So 4 minus 4 over 6 minus a negative, so that's plus 2. So I would get 0 over 8, and what does that mean?
Undefined.
Yep, the slope is 0. So if the 0 is in the denominator, then it's undefined. But this one would just have a 0 slope. Now something a little different that they do in 48 and 50. 48 says it's a horizontal line through 3, 5. So what do we know about the slope of a horizontal line?
It's 0.
Yep, the slope of a horizontal line is 0, so you don't have to do anything other than just write that it is 0. Now, 50, it says it's vertical through the point -8, 5. What's true about the slope of a vertical line?
Undefined.
That one would be undefined because it's going straight up and down. So the way that my teacher used to do it was, I'm going to draw 2 little graphs here so we can see it. So what she said was that a horizontal line goes like this, and that would have a 0 slope because it went straight across like that. And then for a vertical line, because it went, let me switch colors back, because it goes up and down, when you make a U for undefined, the first thing you do is go down, so that would have been undefined. So if you don't remember, hopefully that will help you. That's the way I always have to think about it, though, like literally to this day, and I learned that in like 8th grade. So let's see. So 57 through 64 say to graph the line. I just want you to write the equation of the line instead. So they give us, like number 58, it'll say it's through the point -2, 8, and it has a slope of 2/5. So I need to use point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So the stuff that's something's being plugged into is this y1, m, and x1. The other y and x that are by themselves are what stay in the equation. So when I do this one, this is going to be y minus y1. y1 is 8. If you ever have something where they give you 2 points that are on the line, you can choose either one, and it's going to give you the same thing. Equals 2/5 times x minus x1, which minus a negative is going to end up being plus 2. And that's a perfectly fine equation of the line. Now, it's a little harder to work with this one if we're actually graphing it, but as far as just setting up the equation of the line, that's all you need to do, is just plug it in and set it up, because this will lead us into stuff that we'll do later on. 60, I have the point -2, -3, and a slope of -3/4. So what would my equation of my line be here?
Y minus, or y plus 2.
Y value is
Yeah, plus 3.
3. So minus the negative is plus, so yep.
Equals -3/4 parentheses x plus 2.
Yep, minus negative, so plus 2. And like I said, totally fine to leave it like that. Some books actually do leave it like this. Some keep going. But it doesn't say what form it has to be in, so I'm just going to tell you you can leave it like that. Just something else I want us to see since these are going pretty fast. 62, it's through the point 3/2 and 2, and we have a slope of 0. So when I set this up, I'm going to end up with y minus 2 equals 0 times x minus 3/2. Well, what happens with this side?
0.
The whole thing is going to become 0 because I'm multiplying by 0. So my actual equation of my line, I should move this over and say y equals 2 is my equation of my line for one like this. Okay. Now 64, again, a little different. It says it's through the point 9/4 and 2, and it has an undefined slope. So what do we know about a line that has an undefined slope?
It's vertical.
It's vertical, so what would my equation be?
Y equals 2.
That would be horizontal. Well, so it's x equals whatever the x value of the coordinate is. So this would be x equals 9/4 because it's undefined. All right, any questions about any of that stuff? It's all stuff you've seen before, probably. All right, then as far as problems that you actually need to graph, 13, 17, 21, and 25. So all of these ones are graphing ones. And then (43) and 45 for finding slope. And then for these last ones, 57, 59, 61, and 63, on those ones, you just need to write the equation like we did. You do not graph it. So, modified instructions on that. You'll probably be able to get most of it done. Monday we'll review for a quiz on Tuesday on 2-1 to 2-4. I feel like this stuff's been not too bad. And then if you don't have your notes done, then you can work on notes for after the quiz on Tuesday for the rest of the chapter.